Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on the time zone you're watching this live webinar or watching the recording. My name is Victor Manga. I'm a board member of Virtually Testing Foundation. Today we have Ron Woerner with us. I brutalized that last name. Is that how you say it, Ron?
That is how you say it. You're
All
correct.
right. So I'll go over quick basic frequently asked questions and I'll hand it off to Ron. So first question is, how are you gonna get the slides? They will be posted on our social media. So if you're connected to our LinkedIn and Twitter, you should be able to get access to it. Second question is, how do I access your social media? There will be a QR code at the end. You can scan it and that will point you to our LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. This session is recorded. What that means is it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel and you can watch it later on as well. During the session, if you have any questions, and Ron does encourage that, please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A box. Make it interactive, make it something that you will enjoy it, ask questions. With that, I'm gonna pass it on to Ron. Ron, all yours.
Fantastic. Well, that's more of who I am. Welcome, everybody, and thanks again, Victor, for having me as a part of this. I am a cybersecurity professional and have been doing this for a very long time. What I actually encourage my students to do, encourage you to do this as well. Go ahead and Google me. Look me up on LinkedIn. We run under the idea of always trust but verify. I do that even with speakers. As part of this session, I'll be going through how you can keep building our career. The cyber world is continually in flux. We have this thing known as the cyber career gap, but what does that really mean? What do you need to have a good, robust career where you're continually feeling challenged, where you're continually growing? If you look at what people really want from a job, it's not just a job, particularly in our career fields where we're professionals. They want something where they have impact on what they're doing. And the nice thing is, in the cyber world, we definitely can do that. We have impacts not only on our employers, but on our communities as well. What do you need to build your cyber career? What do you need from yourself to do that? As far as education and certifications and experience, how do you gain experience? We have the age-old catch-22. How do I get a job in cyber testing if I don't already have a job in cyber testing, because that's what they're looking for? I'll show you some ideas on exactly how you can do that. And then how to properly network. Really, it's social engineering your next job, which is why I like to put the word hacking in, because it is almost an essence of hacking. If you happen to be a hiring manager, there's some things you need to consider too to make sure you're bringing in the right candidates. As Victor mentioned, please ask questions. I want to make sure this has value to you. You often see statistics out there about the cyber skills gap. This is true across many areas of information technology, not only cybersecurity. For example, information security, 76% of cybersecurity leaders face skills gap. What I found this sometimes means, though, is that there's a disparity between those who may be applying and those the hiring managers may see. Let me give you an example. A couple of years ago, I was actually in the job hunt. I had been laid off by a company I was working for, and I began putting my resume out and contacting people. And I applied at a large bank you probably all have heard about, one of their positions. And I knew a lot of the people there. For 8 weeks, I hadn't heard a thing. So finally, I contacted their chief security officer, who happens to be also a friend of mine. And I said, Drew, did you ever see my application? He's like, nope. We realized just then that it's often that gap, and that's the reason behind the gap, is that there are HR filters that are looking for very specific candidates, purple unicorns, if you will. You know, they want 10 years of Splunk experience and 8 years of QRadar and Tenable, and you name the type of assessment or testing tool. They'll put it in there, and then they don't find any good candidates, or the ones they find don't match. So there's a lot of reasons why we see this. from ISACA. And if you're not a member of ISACA, I do recommend you can join them or ISC Squared, ISSA, or InfraGard. And I'll go into why here in just a bit. They have an annual survey as well, where we're trying to build equal opportunities across genders, across races, because we need those different types of perspectives. If everyone is the same, then we're missing out on a lot of what could be happening. So when you have people looking at things from different points of view, then that reduces the number of assumptions. As you can see on the screen as well, 66% find the hiring managers find they have a difficulty in retaining the talent. I was talking to the CISO for a large state here in the United States, and they agreed. She said, I'll spend a lot of time and money training people, and then they leave. So how do you encourage people to stay after they've been trained without having to go into all sorts of legal agreements? Also part of the challenge. If you have ideas as to why we see this cyber skills gap, I'd love to hear from you, because this is a continual conversation. One of the pundits of information security is Ben Rothke, and I recommend you follow Ben on LinkedIn and Twitter. He had a paper on this recently, and he equates it partly to salary. In the cyber world, IT and testing, we demand a lot of money. Why? Well, it's actually basic economics, and it's not that we're demanding, supply and demand. The old idea, there's a demand for more IT, the supply is low, so therefore it costs more. A lot of companies don't have the funds to pay for a cybersecurity or testing person. So they try to shortchange it, or they try to work around it, or they just ignore the need. I want you to consider, though, why we need cyber testers. What is the value that you bring, not only to your organization, but to many other organizations? So is it really true, or is it not? You can see from ISC Squared, another good organization, their survey from last year, 27% don't see clear paths. For example, how do you break into cybersecurity? One of the debates is, are there any incoming jobs for cybersecurity when you're just starting out? So let's just say you just finished with a degree in computer science or CIS, MIS from a university. How do you start your career? What are those openings? Are there really any good openings there? I'm going to show you a site. It's called CyberSeek that you can use to actually see a cybersecurity career path. Knowing about cyber skills within an organization, I'm going to show you how to social engineer your next job. So what does it take to get a job in cybersecurity? What was Ben's last name? I see this in chat. Rothke, R-O-T-H-K-E, Ben Rothke. He's very well known in speaking and in writing. He actually has one of the first books in cybersecurity, Cybersecurity Awareness. What does it take to get a job? 3 things. You need education, experience, and certifications on one hand. So what does that mean? Well, the certifications allow you to break through the gatekeepers of HR. Having a certification like the ones from CompTIA, Security Plus, Network Plus, the CYSA, they have a number of them now, or ISC Squared with CISSP or SSCP, ISACAs, SANS. Those show you have experience at a point in time. The difference between certifications and education, though, education, you build knowledge over time. And the key to education, 2 keys. 1, you learn how to learn. Cybersecurity is 10 miles wide and an inch deep. That's what they say about the CISSP exam. It's so broad, you can't know everything, and nor should you be required to. But can you quickly learn? Can you adapt and correlate? For example, let's just say you understand how Splunk works. Can you use that to run QRadar, or you know about a particular technology with your testing. Can you use that somewhere else? You're knowledgeable about Fedora. Can you also use Debian or Ubuntu? Yeah, you really can. Education, you learn how to quickly learn and adapt. You also learn more about communications. Don't discount the ability to write and verbally communicate. I see this with my students. So not only am I a cybersecurity consultant, but I'm also a university professor. And I often have students ask, why do I need to know how to write? Well, you could find the best hack in the world. You have the perfect zero-day vulnerability, but if you can't communicate it, you've lost half the battle right there. So practicing the skills over time is education. And then gaining experience. I'll give you some tips on how to gain experience without having a job. There's actually a lot of really good opportunities. What university do I teach at? It's called Bellevue University out of Bellevue, Nebraska. Although like most, we're online. Although we've been online for 15 years. So we have almost 1,000 students in our cybersecurity studies program alone between the undergraduate and the graduate. I'm going to talk to the other side of the slide now. The other three things, and everything in security is in threes, right? Protection, detection, response, CIA. This is tech skills, functional knowledge, and your personal abilities. What do I mean by that? Well, you need to show the ability with technology. Of course, we're using technology. That can be a specific type of an operating system, Windows, Linux, cloud-based, whether it's AWS, Azure, Google, skills using particular testing methodologies that are more technically based. You need those. You need functional knowledge, healthcare, finance, federal or state. I think you get the idea, where you're understanding how sectors work and their specific requirements. Because with testing, it's often you're testing against some compliance requirements like the payment card industry or HIPAA for healthcare or ISO. That's functional knowledge. Personal abilities are your abilities to work with others. How is your skills in working with teams? And again, with communicating. All of these continually you should be building.
Hey, Ron.
Yes.
To interrupt you. But so one of the common questions we see is there is so much out there to learn in cybersecurity. There are so many certifications. There are so many degrees, master's degrees, PhD, YouTube channels. Where do one start? How do they know that's the right path? Because before they know, they have spent 7 years in.
That's a great question, Victor. What you want to do is write down your goals. Okay, have your strategic planning. And that's really where I'm going at with this. Picture yourself in 5 or 10 years. What job do you want? So you need to think about this multiple ways. One, write down. And if you need to write it down, don't just think about it. Write it down. What is your dream job? If you could have any job in the world, what would it be? Okay. What is the most likely job you'll have in 5 years? That's the future, and then working backwards. Other things you want to write down are, what are your strengths? What are you really good at? You know, you're great at a particular technology, or you can present, you understand the National Institute of Standards and Technology compliance requirements. You document your strengths like everything else. In testing, we have to document everything, right? Counter to that, what are your weaknesses? Non-strengths, if you will, areas of opportunity for you. What you may need to do is reach out to someone else, a good buddy, mentor or a coach, and ask them, what are my strengths? Because we tend to be kind of shy about that. But find out from others what they see as your strengths. And then ask them, okay, where do I need some improvement? Then you can begin to build your plan. So background comes from identity. Do you know of certificates specifically in identity? I'm not coming up with any specifically. Connect with me on LinkedIn and it'll give me more time to think about this. But if you consider identity is a part of identity and access management, okay? So the IAAA, identity, access, authentication, authorization, sometimes you throw in audit as well. So consider the broader spectrum than just identity, but that whole IAAA, which then is actually a component of cybersecurity. So you can then focus on that and list that as your strength. So you may want to consider a certification in cybersecurity that includes identity and access management. One of the top certs I recommend as a beginner may be Security Plus. So just reading the chat a little bit. So like CIAM, yes. So identity and access management. And if you do know of certifications, yeah, share. That's where the power of these sessions come in, where one person often doesn't have the answer, but many do. As I mentioned earlier, write down your goals, your strengths, weaknesses, what you want to do. And then you can begin to plan on how you get there. What certifications should you look to get? Now, when you're looking at certifications, you want to make sure they're from a valid source that has been around for a long time. There are a lot of them out there. So ask, who else has that certification? How many others are certified? What are the costs, not only to initially certify, but to keep your certification? Unfortunately, I see some outfits that provide their own certifications, and it's mainly so they can make money. It's not really adding value to people. Make sure the certification body is validated by others. What you also want to do is make sure you're developing your career return on investment. A certification is an investment, which some people are shy to make. But think of it this way. You might spend $500 to get certified, but you can earn $5,000 after you're certified, okay? So, hundreds of times of return on investment right there. Or you need to get certified, should you spend $100 on a book and a set of test questions? I would say yes. If you're investing in it, consider it as a part of your investment in your future self. Other ideas for your strategic planning, how to get from where you are to where you're going. First of all, be flexible. Sometimes we need to step aside, take a side step with our career rather than a direct forward step. For example, you start out on a help desk or a service desk and you move to an identity access management team when your real goal is to be full-time, say, cybersecurity penetration tester. I really want to be a pen tester. How do I get there? And they're not taking anyone without experience in it. How do I do that? Well, start out in the help desk, then maybe that identity access management. And then from there, you're internal to the organization. You find out who is on that team. And that's where you begin social engineering them, okay? Really is as easy as you go up to them. We're not allowed to shake hands anymore, so it's doing the elbow bump. Hi, I'm Ron, and I want to learn about your job and what you do because I want to do it someday. You see, people love talking about themselves. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask people you admire. That's actually something else to write down. Find people you admire in the career field and connect with them through LinkedIn or other types of social media or through other network connections. So, beginning certification in cyber testing. Security Plus is not specific to just cyber testing, covers a lot of areas of cybersecurity. But once you understand those areas, it's an easy branch to cyber testing. SANS has some specific certifications on penetration testing. The goal, if you want to get into the offensive testing, so there's offensive and defensive in cybersecurity. The offensive is the attackers, red team. Defense, where you're trying to figure out how to protect, and that's the blue team. By the way, if you combine red and blue, what color does it make? Purple. So if you follow Tanya Janka on Twitter, fascinating lady, She Hacks Purple is her Twitter handle for that exact reason. She does a lot of offense, but she gets defense, expert in application security and DevSec. So be flexible in how your career is taking you. So hopefully that answered your question. Oh, an advanced certification in cybersecurity testing would be the OSCP, Offensive Security, Cybersecurity, I forget, OSCP, from drawing a blank, white hat security, I believe, OSCP.
Offensive
Look
Security
them up.
Certified Professional.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That is a very tough exam. I'm too scared to try for it. It basically takes you 24 hours to do. And it really tests your in-depth knowledge of basically red teaming. Use that as a farther goal and then figure out how to get there. And a way is through the lesser certifications like a Security Plus, or ISACA has theirs within the CISM model, the SSCP from ISC squared. So hopefully that answered your question. Let's see, I've talked a lot about this already. Social engineer your way in. Google stalk whoever that hiring manager is, find out who that is. You might just see, a bank is hiring. Go to LinkedIn and see who works at that bank. I would even Google, whatever the bank's name is, security. See what pops up. Whoever does security for them may have their own blog. And then you can reach out. Why do you want to do this? As I mentioned, human resources, that funnel can be broken. So reach out directly to the hiring manager or see if you have a connection. For example, I want to work at a particular company and I know Victor has a connection there. Then I reach out to Victor. Hey, Victor, I'm interested in this company. Can you give me an introduction to so-and-so? And if I have a good relationship, Victor then will probably say, sure. So that's what I mean by social engineering your network. OSINT, what is OSINT? So world's #1 hacking resource. You know what it is? What's the world's #1 hacking tool? Give you a hint. The answer is on your screen. Google, of course. So when you don't know a term, quickly Google it. OSINT, open source intelligence, comes from the military. I am prior US military. It's gaining information from things that are open, from newspapers, from blogs, from company websites. So using open source intelligence to find out as much as you can. It's about doing your homework. Getting a good job requires you to do homework. I was going to see if I had another slide on that. No. Learn as much as you can. That comes in handy too when you're interviewing. A common interview question is, they'll ask you about the company. Tell me, what do you know about our bank? You should be able to rattle off some important facts about the bank or just interesting things that you found about it. Good questions so far. Keep them coming. Keep building your reputation as well through the connection with people. Blog. I have my students actually blog. Why? They get jobs through it. When you're interviewing, if they say, so tell me what you think about so-and-so or this particular topic. What do you know about cloud computing? You can then maybe point to your blog and say, oh, yes, well, I can tell you I have experience with Azure and AWS, and I have a blog post on it from about a year ago. Why I say this? Gets students jobs, gets people jobs, makes you a lot more public. Victor and I were talking about putting videos out on YouTube. Consider that as well. They don't have to be super professional. Show who you are. And that way people can get to know you outside of the formal channels. So that's what I mean, building your reputation and your network. I actually have a student who did get a job because of her blogging. She went for an interview. The hiring manager was already familiar with her blog. So it was actually an easy hire for her. So let's see, how about FedRAMP since it involves with banking stuff? Yes, so FedRAMP is the US standard for cloud security providers. So if you're providing something along cloud, something to think about with FedRAMP. What is FedRAMP based on? And I'm putting this in the chat, based on NIST. So if they say, are you experienced with FedRAMP? How many FedRAMP assessments have you done? Let's just say you haven't done any. However, let's just say you've done a lot of NIST 800-53 Rep 4 or Rep 5 assessments. FedRAMP is just NIST 853, by the way. So I've had that happen to me. QECP is for healthcare information providers. QECP is what it's called. I'd never heard of it. and a company wanted to hire me to do a QECP assessment. I looked it up. It's just NIST 853. So learn what all of these are based on. Most of them are based on NIST 800-53. So that hopefully answered the question. I answered that one live, answered live the beginning cert. And if I'm not answering your questions, please let us know through chat. DevSecOps, definitely. Learn what those terms mean, DevSecOps. So moving from development environment to security to operations. Why do we need this? Well, it used to be, I still see this in companies, you have your developers. Developers are in the box over here. When they're done building code, they throw it over a wall to operations over here, and they never talk. And they wonder why things don't work. So DevOps brings together these two groups and then combines security to make sure security is built in. Tanya Janka is also really good as far as the OWASP community. So if you're part of application development or security, know a lot of these common bodies like ISC squared, ISACA, OWASP. Let's see, is it true to be a natural born citizen to work on FedRAMP? Good question. I'd have to check the answer on that. To certify, there's a possibility you may have to be. But that's if you're going to be a federal certifier for FedRAMP. You don't necessarily have to be a US citizen, though, to perform assessments and testing, be part of the team. You may not be able to be the certifier, but you can be part of the team to help them get certified. It's actually often what I do as a cybersecurity consultant is I prepare businesses to get certified. I don't do the certifying myself, but I make sure they are tested. They can pull together the evidence of their testing as well. So hopefully that answers that question. I don't have a definitive answer on that. No one has to be natural born except the president. Possibly. I see that as from chat from Barry. Good. Keep coming with these questions. I love it. Now, if you're the one hiring, try to be as human as you can. You know, be very real with the expectations. What do you really need? Again, do you need someone who's an expert in FedRAMP and an expert in ISO and an expert in PCI? Focus on really what's important and then put the rest as nice to have. We often see this in job descriptions. Look at numerous job descriptions, I challenge you as well, for cybersecurity and cyber testing. And you'll see the ones that stand out looking for everything. You know, can you build a house while you are securing an operating system, while you're doing 14 things? And it's like, this isn't realistic. What you want to do too, again, social engineer your way and find someone who's had the job or is already at that company to find out what are they really looking for. These ideas on the slide go both ways. So being open, inclusive, we'll take people with a variety of types of skills. For example, I had this happen to a student. They were looking for LAMP, which is Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. She's like, well, I don't have LAMP experience, no, but she's been a part of other groups and part of what's known as, and I need to actually go back a slide to challenge you. Oh, it's just going forward. Anyway, I'll go back here in a minute. A CTF, I'll put it in chat. CTF is known as a capture, hard to type and talk, capture the flag. How do you gain experience if you don't already have experience? There you go, Victor, thank you. Capture the flags, Google it, are exercises, are competitions where you get to practice hands-on cyber testing skills. They can be very competitive. They're worldwide. There's numerous free ones you can do. You can actually put your experience with CTFs on a resume. It allows you to experiment with new types of technologies and operating systems as well. So if you aren't familiar with CTFs, I recommend you check them out. So looking to see if there are other questions? No. Good. If you're wondering this pathway, how do I get to a specific job? You write down your job you want in 5 years. Go to cyberseek.org/pathway And they actually have job descriptions for each of these. What's also kind of cool with this website, they have an approximate number of jobs available within the United States. This was developed by Department of Homeland Security and National Institute of Standards and Technology, where they're actually capturing this data and they are trying to overcome the cybersecurity skills gap. You can look at each of these bubbles, by the way, to find out specific certifications and career requirements and actual job titles as well. What's also kind of cool with this, it'll give you an approximate salary. So if you're trying to get hired for a position, you'll know what to ask, because that's often the common question, so how much are you asking for? I would then state, well, according to CyberSeek, the average salary for this position in this location is this amount, and I'm looking for that. And that way it's not just up to you. You're going along a standard. This is a TED Talk I have. We're not actually going to play it on Hackers Wanted, where I'm explaining how we need to be building our next generation of hackers. So the slides will be made available from Victor. Other resources. I've written numerous times on this because students often ask me, how do I get a job in cybersecurity? Read through these. I'm a big fan of Peerlist. That's often where I blog, so you can read my blogs there and see their wiki. They have numerous podcasts as well. Also need to recommend the Breaking Into Security podcast. Renee Small, Christophe Foulon interview industry experts on this exact type of idea. So Peerless, good link, saw that. So good. Yeah, a lot of the top security pundits are on Peerless as well, where you can learn from. So what other questions do you have for me? I love playing the game Stump the Professors. See if you can ask me something that either I can't answer or I can't at least bluff my way through.
I think that's all
about
we
it.
have.
Okay,
Yeah,
we're
that's
about
good.
at the half-hour point. Again, please connect with me. Let me know how we can help each other and build up our career field. So again, thank you, Victor, for allowing me the stage to talk and hopefully help out some folks, whether you are here live or you're watching this later. But until we chat and meet again, I just ask that you be safe.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much, Ron, for this time. And it was valuable. It was insightful. So